All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with the session today. Very much looking forward to having a chat with both of you guys here. Why don't we do some introductions? Matt Daly, the CEO here at Instruction-Site. I'll pass it to you, Sung, and then to you, Gonzalo, just to do like a quick intro and let people know a little bit about yourself.
So,
my name is Sungjun Cho. I'm an investor at B20 Capital. We're a new venture capital fund based in the San Francisco Bay Area. We were backed by Doosan, which is a large Korean industrials conglomerate. There's a lot of familiarity and excitement around construction services, and construction technology. So we got to meet Matt and the team last year. I've been really impressed by, kind of what they're building in the construction industry, and ended up investing, leading the Series A round earlier this year, and I'm really excited for what's ahead.
Okay, well, I'm Gonzalo Galindo. I'm currently running what we call Cemex Ventures. Cemex Ventures is the open innovation and corporate venture fund of Cemex. Cemex is a building material company, mostly engaged in cement, ready mix, and aggregates. At Cemex Ventures, we do invest a lot in construction technology, trying to figure out how this industry will shape into the future, and looking forward into it, and to see how Cemex can promote and take advantage of that construction revolution, to say so, based on all the new technologies which are out there changing the way we do business. No, we met Matt close to 2 years ago, and we are one of the happy investors in Instruction-Site.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm really glad to have both of you guys here, and of course you're here because we're talking about investing in construction technology. So I think a good topic to open that up would just be the basic question of what is exciting you the most right now about construction technology?
Well, I think that after several years of struggle and investing and trying and testing, I think we're finally reaching a point in which we starting to be comfortable with construction technology, with use of new technologies, new concepts at the job site, in the way we go about projects, in the way we plan, we order materials, we construct, build, manage people, hire people, and so on. No? I think that finally we're starting to see all these solutions being taken care, being considered by contractors, by owners, by developers. And I think that we're finally setting the foundations for what I hopefully will be a huge renovation, a huge new way of thinking, a huge, completely new paradigm in the way we think about construction. No? I think we're finally, after a few years, we're finally reaching a point where we're setting the grounds, where we are setting the basis for what will come in the future, no? Which I hope will be a completely much more productive, much more efficient, much more aggressive, and I would say more modern construction environment all over the place. No?
Awesome. Yeah. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, so I'm relatively new to the construction tech space, but it's been really exciting to see kind of in the early, I feel like we're in the early innings here, and there's so much exciting stuff being built. So, I mean, compared to some of the other industries that I've invested in before, it is early innings, but also that means that there's a lot of learnings that can be applied. And so, some aspects or some sectors that I'm really excited about, other kind of like the various aspects of intelligent data capture. So whether it's, what you guys are doing, Matt, with images and kind of site documentation, but also in applications such as intelligent data capture for labor, for example. And in the kind of mid to long term, also really excited about the use of robotics or other forms of automation to augment the workforce, as well as things like new construction methods, whether you're using robotics or other various prefab or modular methods. So I think it's just, there's so much, so many applications to be able to use technology to make the entire industry even more efficient. So really looking forward to seeing awesome stuff being built here.
Yeah, no, I was kind of speaking of other industries, right? You guys as investors tend to have a broader view of the world than the one we live in here at Struction Site, where we're very focused on like the one thing we are trying to do. What would you guys say are some other, I guess, what are some other industries that have gone through their sort of like digital transformation and maybe a similar sort of transformation that construction is going through right now, maybe like ad tech, for example? Why do you think this is happening for construction now?
Yeah, so I can go first. I think, and I just want to reiterate the caveat that I'm more new to this exciting world of construction and construction technology. So I think there's a lot of history and lots of nuances that I'm probably missing. So please bear with me. But as mentioned, I do believe that construction tech is in the early innings. And so from what I've seen, the first wave of site digitization was done by Procore and PlanGrid. So from just my outsider point of view, what I like to call it is site digitization 1.0. And it's been very important in laying the foundation of kind of taking that first step in digital transformation. And I think what we're seeing now, and it's very exciting, is the second wave, or site digitization 2.0. And there's all sorts of innovative solutions like Struction Site, of course, and these solutions are helping increasing the efficiency of various tasks on the job site. And I think the most critical component of site digitization 2.0 is efficient data capture, because I believe the efficacy of tools and solutions in this wave will be based on the quality and relevance of data. So you kind of mentioned other industries, but industries like advertising tech or financial technology have been optimized and then optimized some more for over 20 years. And so the tools and data capture mechanisms have gone through countless iterations, and the ad tech industry, for example, is at the point where technology, as well as the users of the technology, is mature enough that the everyday advertiser can really customize and optimize algorithms on their own. So I think whether it's ad tech or fintech, accurate data collection mechanisms have been built. And I think that's what's really most important in the construction technology industry right now in order to get to that next level.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What about you, Gonzalo? I've got a couple thoughts on this as well, but I'll let you jump in here. I'd love to hear what you think about why now.
Why now? I mean, I think it's desperation, no? At the end of the day, no? Building a little bit on what Son just mentioned, I mean, it was talking about the job site digitalization 1.0, no? And that basically was taking paper out of the job site. I mean, something as simple as that, taking paper out, no? And trusting whatever a computer says, and trusting that you will send a message in a phone or a computer to somebody at the job site and he will actually act upon, no? That's, believe it or not, it's a huge step for this industry, because it entailed a lot of mind shifting towards something different, no? An industry which used to be very, I would say, hierarchical, from the job site manager to the next guy to the next guy. Suddenly, out of the blue, you have tools that will provide you information which is not necessarily written on a paper, which is not necessarily, it can be ubiquitous wherever you want to go in the job site and so on. Those are paradigm shifts which this industry has endured over the last few years, no? And that will actually build on the what some mentioned as the job site 2.0, no? Which is now we know that we can get data, because let's get quality data and use that quality data. No, I think that not sure whether this will go into such a sophisticated algorithms like fintech, adtech, and so on. But certainly this will be the basis for something else in this industry. I will try to do this similar to other industrial industries, like for example, car manufacturing, which whenever you start digging, digitalizing, and trusting information, gathering information, and so on, so suddenly the way we build cars completely changed. No? And now a car factory is completely different to a car factory 10, 15, 20, and let's aside 30 years ago. No, where this industry will go because of that, time will tell. No, I have my theories, and probably we can discuss them later. No, but I think that that this industry really passed one of the key hurdles of the digitalization and the technological shift that will happen, which is the mental hurdle of I can trust information digitally. I can work digitally doing things. I can send our friend's construction site and figure out whether this drywall is properly installed. No, and I don't have to go myself. No, I can actually watch it on my phone. No, that's a paradigm shift for the industry. No.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think what I would add to that is my sort of thesis on why now is related to what you mentioned about Procore, PlanGrid, this call it site digitization 1.0, call it cloud 1.0 for construction, call it whatever you want to call it, but it's a series of a wave of companies that digitized paper, spreadsheets, and workflows really well. And in most industries, paper, spreadsheets, and workflows is enough. In construction, there's this gigantic physical interface known as the job site that completely presents this very different challenge in terms of digitizing and automating capture of information. And so where we've sort of flatlined and plateaued a little bit is in this place of manual data entry, right? And the thing that, of course, changed is these like rapid innovations in computer vision and machine learning and taking data from other types of sensors and changing the capture process so that it can actually accommodate a physical interface like a job site. So I think just a lot of other industries have had the benefit of not needing that last piece of the puzzle to make the jump. And so we're here in construction finally with some of the right tools that are plugging one more big puzzle piece for us, which is automating some of the capture process when it relates to information. Gonzalo, I want to jump to another point that you talked about. You talked about car manufacturing, and you and I have talked in the past about standardization. And I'd love to know kind of how you think about what role standardization plays in sort of the development of construction as an industry, and how that could maybe help or hinder us moving forward.
Sure. Look, I'm calling it standardization and making the symbol to the car industry, but I think at the end of the day, one of the main problems of this industry is that it's a project-based industry. I'm not discovering anything. I'm not discovering the wheel here, no. But the fact that being a project-based industry makes innovation flow substantially slower than anywhere else. And in spite of the fact that everybody's starting to have a lot of digital tools and technological advancements in the job sites, at the end of the day, just because this building is completely different to that building and the next building, a lot of that innovation becomes kind of innovation a la carte. No, I mean, this time we can apply this because it's going to be more effective next time. Different job site manager, different building, different design. Probably that same advancement, that same concept might not apply completely to the next job site. No, so I think the concept of standardization beyond the actually standardizing physically structures or beams or so on, or more technical issues, I think we need to figure out a way to make certain processes and certain activities in this industry far more standard, being more as similar as possible, equivalent to a chassis in a car. No, with one chassis you can build 7 different models. well, what can we figure out in this industry which can we actually do the same and try to actually build on it. No, certainly the whole digitalization and technological advancement of this industry will facilitate that. You will see, we are already seeing a lot of offsite construction and industrialized construction concepts popping out all over the place. Which is one level of standardization for certain things. Let's standardize the way we build the structure of our house, and then we put the envelope around it and so on. No? Those concepts are really gonna shift the way, the velocity, the way we build, the way we think about design of a building, the way we plan about job sites. And not only that, which is more importantly, and it's one of the factors which I believe is not properly being taken care of today in all this movement of innovation, is regarding the supply chain. Supply chain is still very cumbersome, very tortuous, very difficult for any single job site. No, one way of standardizing all this is really helping supply chain, and supply chain can be much more efficient if we have certain concepts already standardized. Whether it is the way we build structures, whether it is the way we build floors and so on, I don't care, but we need to figure out a way to make things more and more consistent. No, and whenever we go into this phase of the job site, everybody knows that will take 4 days, because it takes 4 days to do that specific thing, not necessarily 5 days today, 7 days tomorrow. And by the way, the truck hasn't arrived with the material. No, so we really need to take advantage of this influx of information and digitalization and technology to figure out a way to change the paradigm on how we build. It's really changing deep inside the way we build things.
What would be an example of standardization in the supply chain?
Look, for example, and you can see a couple of companies doing this already. No, Singapore, for example, is working very hard in trying to standardize the way will they build the structural part of a building. Why? Because, and then they put the envelopes around in the building, and one will be green, the other will have a very fantastic view, the other one will be very industrial, whatever. No, but the structure in itself, they're trying to standardize as much as possible, and they do it somehow in an offsite way. No, why? Because the whole supply chain of all the materials, the steel, the concrete, and so on, is controlled way before the actual beam or the actual foundation will actually reach the job site. No? So by the time it reaches the job site, everybody knows this goes there, this goes there, this goes there. The steel, the concrete, the whatever has to go into that specific column is already specified. It will be the same for the next building, for the next column, and so on. No? So that facilitates a lot the way you deal with the suppliers, the timings of the deliveries, and so on. And actually, you is a little bit the internal supply chain of the internal logistics of the job site, no? Because you are not receiving a truck, the steel, and 77 people at the same time. It's just a beam with a crane with this, no? It will facilitate substantially, no?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there sort of related to this like broader theme of the industrialization of construction.
Exactly.
And I would love to dive a little bit more into that, but I guess I'll kind of ask you, Sung, like whether it is about standardization or the industrialization of construction. What are some of the things that you guys, again, from an investor's perspective, are looking at there and what are you projecting that it might have in terms of an impact on the industry?
Yeah, so going back to the standardization point, to Gonzalo's point, it's part of the issue, I think, that's been prevalent until now is that it's project-based, right? So it feels like, being newer to this industry and seeing how the use of technology is expanding. The benefit of technology in all industries is that it's scalable, right? And so one piece of software can touch all sorts of projects, around the world very easily. And so I wonder if the use of technology will contribute, and it'll kind of be an iterative process where technology helps to standardize certain aspects of the industry, because technology will also kind of magnify the pain points of the lack of standardization. And Matt, I'm guessing, as you guys build out SmartTrack, for example, and your computer vision algorithms are able to identify certain different kinds of objects or different progress. If there's something that if the algorithm hasn't seen before, then that's something that you need to manually input into the system. And so you can imagine if everything is standardized, then the value of SmartTrack becomes even stronger. And so I think that's what happens in many different industries, in different industrial industries as well, where as technology penetrates deeper into different processes, there's just an inherent need to standardize more. And so I think as we go down this path, there's just, though there will be a ton of different applications that pop up that, tech can help to augment, the existing workforce to make their jobs easier.
Yeah, I think another lens to look through, I think Gonzalo is referring to like a very physical interface standardization related to BIM and the design process and how we fabricate. I think there's even another like level of standardization that we as a software vendor see needing, as potentially very important, which is just like API based sharing of information digitally. That's a whole different. There's actually one of our very early teammates here, Brianna Williams, who's a senior product manager, is one of the co-founders of an organization called the Construction Progress Coalition, who's spending a lot of time thinking about common data environments and the way that information is exchanged between digital tools, like for example, a Struction site and a Procore and an Autodesk, and a number of other tools that also need standardization for the way digital information is shared. So I think there is a lot of work to be done there, and there's some very like early foundational work, both physically and digitally, that's being done. I'm definitely happy that we're being a part of the sort of digital piece of that, but I do, my background, I guess, coming from the manufacturing world, when I hear people start talking about building things like cars, and I know that's like a very sort of overly used analogy where suddenly buildings are built like cars because they're just, the challenges in many ways are different, but also the same. And so that's definitely a future that we're excited about here at Struction Site. And I guess that'll kind of switch me into our next topic here, because I see that there's really two worlds emerging. There's the field and the factory. And when you say supply chain, Gonzalo, it kind of makes me think about the fact that these two places are sort of disparate still, and there's opportunities to connect those worlds that exist. But just to think about for now, how like, for example, let's call it the category of intelligent project tracking, these tools that are automatically capturing information using reality capture data and then processing that into like a percentage completion of certain scopes of work and an understanding of how quickly activities are actually being completed on the job site. For that category of software, I guess, how are you guys seeing this new category of software emerging in the construction space as a core tool among these other core tools that exist, like your project management tool, your bidding and estimating tool? How do you guys potentially see that emerging, that category emerging as a new way of really consolidating information and connecting it to other places?
I think that you had a very important point just right before your question. No? I think that there's still plenty of work to be done in making sure that apples talk to apples, no? And not apples to oranges right now, no? And that will be a huge endeavor. I really see a scenario one day in which you can mostly automatically, but with caveats about it automatically, draw a lot of actions from the different stakeholders surrounding one specific job site at one specific point of time, drawing information and acting upon a unified set of data, which, for example, the instruction site guy goes, takes the reads and says, this is already at this stage. That triggers something else in the program saying, now we need to start ordering the windows, and that triggers another one, and now you need to start looking for the Windows installer. And I mean, that scenario, it will take some time. And this is way beyond the factory, offsite, or job site. This is really a whole philosophy on how to manage the job site, how to manage a project. No, I think that what we have seen so far is so much enthusiasm in trying to solve a problem that we are risking now the problem of having too many solutions floating around and not necessarily talking to each other and so on. No, even in offsite construction, you can see popping up a lot of startups and people saying, "I can build your house in one day. I can do this in this way," and so on. And we need to figure out of bringing a little bit of consistency and thinking into this whole effort of innovation in such a way that those solutions which actually can give us a better advancement into something better really are supported moving forward. No, otherwise we're going to end up again with a mix of solutions which not necessarily talk to each other and not necessarily are solving, but rather blocking evolution. No, I think what you just asked us is really one of the cornerstones of what need to happen moving forward. Is really how can we put all these elements together and connect the dots in the proper way, in a way of talking apples to apples, because today we're talking apples to oranges in many senses. No, and the net productivity to what we're getting with those influx of technology and digitalization is not necessarily maximized. No, and that's one of the worries. And if you talk to many of the contractors today, I think many of them are back in their minds are saying, yes, I can test this solution, I can test, but in the big picture of the new scheme of things, how this is going to help me. No, I mean, it's because of this. Yes, I'm going to save probably one day in the job site, but it's really something which is sustainable. It's going to change the way I think the next project or not. That's probably the key question there. No, on how to approach all this evolution.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because what the ConTech companies are working on right now we're still in the early innings, right? So what you're building, and for example, with what Instruction Site is building with intelligent data capture, will fuel so many more new applications and new technologies, right? Just leveraging that data. And so I think it's very important, to Gonzalo's point, to really think of this in the long term and for the general efficiency and efficacy of the construction industry, so that the innovative solutions that are being built right now can be leveraged by the next generation of companies and products.
Yeah, I mean, the analogy that I guess I like to use is we sort of see this as a category of software that's sort of emerging alongside a traditional project management tool, in the same way that marketing automation emerged alongside CRM. We in our business have both of these core tools. They serve different purposes. A lot of our data lives in between there, but one of them is focusing on automating our marketing efforts, and similar to, like, one of them might be focused in the future for construction on automating capture on the job site and processing that information into something tangible that can be fed back into a project management tool in order to help you just understand the status of your job more accurately. So that's kind of how we see it. So I'll definitely, I guess, we're just moving into maybe broadening the topic here a bit, is I guess just looking forward. What are some of the things that you guys are looking forward to the most about what you think may be coming or what you sort of see down the road. And again, sort of looking through the lens of an investor, why are those opportunities exciting to you as an investor?
Johnson, or let me try.
Go for it, Gonzalo.
I think that moving forward, I think there's plenty of challenges that this industry will have to face. No, on one side, I think the complexity of projects, they will continue becoming more complex. No, nothing better for a challenge for an architect than building something more sophisticated than the previous one. No. And that will trigger all sorts of challenges for all the guys which are in the middle. No, the other thing is that there will be a lot of regulatory charge which will make us think differently and do things differently. For example, the environmental issues. No, that we will face a stronger environmental charge in many of the businesses that were involved in the construction business, the industry. For example, for us, just a cement producer, just imagine how much we're going to have to do to actually clean up our CO2 footprint moving forward. No, it's going to be quite a challenge. No, and at the same time, you will see other challenges like shortfalls in labor and so on. No? So if you start mixing all that together, I think we are just at the tip of the iceberg of several things that will really change this industry. We will see a lot of changes in designs and materials to be used. No? And that, for example, for us is very important. The very important area of our research right now is how materials will change, evolve, or whether the current materials, can we provide them with additional capabilities or characteristics which will be more suitable for a future construction environment. No? Another area which concerns us as well is if this concept of standardization, industrialization of construction is really finally taking off and so on, what should I do? I mean, my ready-mix truck should disappear. So I need to be a different type of supplier. Should I be a supplier of walls? Should I be a supplier of materials for the wall? Or should we just basically build the wall myself? No, that brings challenges to the way we're gonna have to think about how we go to market and so on. No, again, supply chain, I think is one of the most undervalued issues this industry have. No, we have plenty of tools and technologies addressing the job site, but not that many addressing how that job site will be fed with materials, starting with people, but with materials and services still a long way to go. No, in a coordinated way. No, and another thing which I think it's relevant is I forgot. I remember. It's all this influx of innovation and technology is really affecting the big job site, no? The big building, the big bridge, the sophisticated warehouse, and so on. No, but there's plenty of smaller construction which still has to be affected by all this. No. In a meaningful way. No, and in some places 2/3 of the construction of the world is small guys building something small. No, so how we can democratize all this influx of innovation, that will be a question which this industry will have to face at some point. No, because that's at that point is where you can actually start beating the disease. No, which is inefficiencies and so on. No, even if we manage, for example, as a building material supplier, if we manage to have a very smooth supply chain to a job site, that is one of probably 10 projects I'm supplying that day. And the other 8 are small projects with no efficiency at all, which will affect my big project. No? So that balance is something that we need to figure out on how to democratize all of these beautiful things which are happening in large job sites in a way that can actually help smaller job sites to be effective as well, efficient as well, and the whole system improving. No?
Yeah. So for all you startups out there, what I just heard was if you're doing something in supply chain, you need to come talk to Cenex.
Exactly. Come look for me. 1-800 Gonzalo.
Awesome. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing that's really exciting is there's a couple forces. So firstly, I think the industry is starting to embrace technology more. And so one thing that I heard from a large GC once is they were doing some projects with robotics and automation and how that's almost becoming a recruiting tool for them, right? Because some of the younger generation that are coming into the industry now, it's just so cool to be able to work on kind of the intersection of technology and construction, right? Because those are both kind of sectors that they love. And then secondly, with the pandemic, as with many other industries, I think just digital transformation has been accelerated on all fronts by necessity, right? You just have to use technology to get through some of the hurdles that this pandemic has imposed upon us. And so I think kind of broadly, there's just a ton of opportunities as all kind of sectors within the industry start to embrace technology more. Yeah, and then I think there's a lot of solutions, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit where technology is addressing very real pain points. And so once again, being new to the industry, when I hear the stories of how long it takes subcontractors to get paid, right? Or kind of the pain points of finding experienced workers or experienced labor to handle very specific tasks. I think there's many ways, and there's companies that are working on these problems. But at the end of the day, kind of revisiting the whole data capture aspect, I think it starts to be able to build these technologies to solve these very real pain points. It starts with getting very accurate data and then standardizing the process, to Gonzalo's point, to make the whole industry more efficient, because we're not really just trying to find these very specific point solutions. It's really connecting the industry together, and that's usually what the point of technology is.
I think that's a good point to wrap up on. The point of technology is to connect people together. Maybe people and a number of other things, but look, guys, obviously here at Struction Site, we're really excited to be partnered with you both. Really appreciate you guys spending some time sharing some of your thoughts about what you see in the industry today and what you're excited about in the future. So with that, we'll wrap it up and say farewell to everyone. And again, thank you both for joining us, and look forward to chatting with you guys again soon.
Thank you very much for inviting us, Matt. We're always glad to participate with you, and being involved with Struction Site is a really rewarding story for us.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
All right.